Okay, hi. Let's talk about the third section. Combination of LangChain and IO. The most commonly used development framework for a large model. It's LangChain, right? It was one of the first, the most famous one. Do some basic engineering development of this kind, because we are actually ionet, including OpenAI. In fact, one of the services provided is a chat, right? We are like making a template engine, right? Create a knowledge base. And that, of course, is very, very common. It usually requires a framework, instead of writing all your own prompts, right? An extension of this service. Basically, the most commonly used is also this LangChain. What about the first one? In fact, we just need to install a library. I installed this. Don't talk about it. Generally, it is a basic library of LangChain, and it has a community library. And of course, there's another vector like this, SoFace, but this is from Facebook. Of course, there are many that can be used. Then, let's take a few of the most commonly used examples. It is also what we may encounter during development. The first one is how do we use it? How to combine with this LangChain, this big model service of our I/O. In fact, we are the same. Write a model, right? Write another API key and base URL. Everything else is the same. You can see it, right? Hello everyone. If you are using the default model of OpenAI, it doesn't actually need to. No, that's it, right? Everything else is exactly the same. Then, we write messages. That's a system, right? It can also be human. It actually does an encapsulation. Then it's simple and that's okay, right? Okay, take a look at this. In fact, it is not much different from the standard SDK of OpenAI, right? That's sort of the code size. But in the back, he did a lot of packaging. The most commonly used is the prompt word template, right? It's like saying I'm going to write a novel. Often, I just wrote a bunch of this prompt word, wow, you are such a writer. And what abilities do you have? Then I wrote a lot. What about users? Just write. He's going to write a novel about Hello Kitty, right? He has a lot of other keywords, background or something. He doesn't have to write, right? Put it in the template. Let's take a quick example. It's just a system template, right? And then this is the template for the user. For users. Actually, I'm only in a drop-down box. Pick the right language. Then say another sentence, right? Don't write. What do you translate this thing of mine into? You don't need to type that, right? Just write a drop-down box directly. Write a language. Then type a few words, right? He translated you, right? This is equivalent to the target language is Chinese, right? He translated it directly like this, right? Here's a second example. How about this one? Because the current prompt word project is still 90% of applications. In fact, it is all based on this prompt word template, right? So that's very convenient. Everyone write a prompt word and build the service. It's ready to use. And then this. It's actually our other LangChain. What is the core characteristic? It's just a stream. Is it a sequence? Sequential chain. He is a stream. And then you can do all sorts of things in there. We are writing a simple stream. Write a slogan, right? Okay. What is the title? What is the topic, right? Okay. It's certainly the same, but this token has to write his own, right? That's personal. This may be very limited per day, right? 500,000 a token. The core is here, right? It's a template, right? And this is a chat, right? Okay, this is the output, right? So that's one final parser. Okay. This chat, this is one of our engines, right? Okay, this typically means it's like a workflow, but do it programmatically, right? Basically, that's the simple thing to do. Encapsulate the input like this, right? And chat. And then we parse it, right? And then finally, in fact, we only need this chain to be the most critical, right? That's a lot, right? To complete our mission. Similar to such a long chain. Long embedded, right? The core is that it is a chain, right? Then, I just need to write a topic, right? Let's take a look. In fact, it put it here, right? Okay, and then finally what? Generate a slogan. Right, of course. These candidates. Everyone can run. This is a typical LangChain application, right? Do a little workflow. Make some of these chains. Another word. In fact, LangChain is one. More basic applications. Just do RAG. Yeah, of course. Because we may have some of these documents, right? I don't want to put it on the public internet, right? I just want to keep it for myself, right? And some companies have this kind of confidential. Of course, like ionet. There is also this public RAG service, right? If you want to make your own, right? It's relatively simple. Or hundreds or thousands of documents, right? And it involves internal company documents. So say, you can simply make one locally. Well, here's an example, right? Take a look at this. That is to say, this actually reflects our ionet, its various service capabilities, right? We're based on the open source big model, right? Plus ionet. It makes this inference service like this. We can also be very convenient locally. Create such a localized knowledge base. If that's it, it's one of ours. Big model, right? In fact, we also talked about this in the first section. This is one of our vector engines, right? Okay, so this is the knowledge base. Our first words. Put this document. Equivalent to a document all added to this one in his archive, right? Then another word. In fact, take a look here. You use this, right? Vector model. Let's make this document into a vector. Save to this. Vector library edge of face. That's it, right? And then it's a searcher, right? This is my template. This is okay. It actually takes the searched content. Fill in the template, right? And then I'll answer your question, right? Something like this. Let's take a look, right? It goes through a chain, right? I mean, this is standard practice, right? In fact, just change this if you follow up, right? Okay, it's a PDF. Anything will do, right? Everything else can remain unchanged. Then, we can provide services, right? That's about it. Something like ours can be easily packaged. Like a Flask service, right? You can provide services. Yes, with this ionet. Of course, a lot. What about this cloud platform? You can just hang up the document, right? This means you use the local one, right? You can use it, right? This guarantee is safer. Yeah, something like that. Words in this section. Just a typical one. An extension based on ionet, based on LangChain. This one, the most commonly used in large model projects. It's such a framework, right? Let me give you a basic example of this. Of course, LangChain, one service module, lots of them, right? Anyone can, in fact, understand this, right? All other functions can be used, right? If you make some of this foundation a quick one, right? And you need to do this localization, LangChain. It's very, very easy to use, right? But if you have computing power, it's not very strong, right? Do some prototype development with this. It is to do some basic small services. The service volume in one day is not very large, right? Ionet is enough, right?